Hi Maya,
Hi Sandra, how are you?
I'm good. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
كيف مبلشة
Indeed,
معك
happy with you.
2023؟
Exactly. أحلى ما نبلش سوا كلنا.
So thank you so much. يعني New Year, new سيرة, new Maya, hopefully new audience وكمان new us. We're looking forward to spending هيك أول session of the start of the year معك Maya. We did it on purpose, to be honest, to put you as the first session لأنه the most positive يعني نبلش مع most positive ومع أكتر موضوع challenging صراحة لنا كلنا including me تنشوف كيف هالسنة how we are going to tackle our goals, tackle our habits, شو الأشياء اللي بدنا نغيرها. نحن هلأ كلنا من بعد الهوليديز ومن بعد البريك عم نرجع نقلع السنة. I can talk personally تعبانين with هيك مع dread إنه how this new year is going to come. يعني ما بدنا نحكي بس على صعيد لبنان، نحن اليوم الاودينس عم بتفوت تحضر من وين ما كان، بس يعني with more and more economic pressures, with more and more social pressures، الحياة أسرع، البيس أسرع، كلنا عم نكون تحت ضغط أكبر تنغير حياتنا وتنغير اللايف ستايل to introduce new habits to reach the goals يلي كل سنة بنحطهم أول السنة we scratch them، آخر السنة بنكون ما حققناهم وبنرجع بنبلش. So hopefully with you هيك we can somehow break the cycle and start هيك changing and really seeing results. We're all looking forward to your session. قبل ما أتركك تعرفي عن حالك لأنه عنا ناس جداد joining us كمان اليوم بالسيشن، أنا I just want to remind people هيك so بس يلي جديد على البلاتفورم، سيرا is a social enterprise. all our focus is on mental health و mental health بطريقة جديدة. فنحن ما بنبعد عن ال diagnostic وعن ال labeling وعن ال medical conditions، بنحكي بالmental health struggles daily struggles يلي بتواجهنا يوميا كأهل ككابل individuals وكمان كناس بتشتغل active بحياة العمل. ف we bring to you round tables كذا مرة بالجمعة 3 or 4 times a week. please check out السكادجول على سيرة، تسجلوا بالراوند تيبلز، عنا محل قد ما بدكم. in the round tables رح نقضي ساعة ونص من الوقت مع الأكسبرت. اليوم مع مايا رح نقضي تقريبا ساعة ونص. مايا رح تشرح مثل ما أنتوا هلأ عم تشوفونا نحن لايف on the round table. you can ask us, interact معنا وتسألوا أسئلتكم بالQ&A. so قدامكم على الاب رح يكون عندكم Q&A محل تقدروا تسألوا فيه أسئلة، وبليز اسألوا أسئلتكم anonymously لما يبين اسمكم بالتسجيل. so عندكم الأوبشن أنكم تسألوا السؤال بكل سرية تنحافظ على هويتكم. so تقريبا رح نقضي مع مايا 45 minutes وين عم تشرح لنا عن موضوع اليوم وبتسألوا أسئلتكم through the Q&A، وبعدين عم ننقل مع مايا على virtual room. it's very easy، رح نفرجيكم كيف نقدر نحكي أكتر، تطلعوا أنتوا كمان على الكاميرا على الميكروفون، إذا أنتوا بترتاحوا تتسمعوا على غيركم، نحكي أكتر يمكن باللايف جولز تبعكم in detail. يمكن you can share what are the challenges اللي عم تقطعوا فيها، بركي بتقدر مايا تنصحكم أكتر. بالروم ما منسجل شيء، it's a very safe space وين كمان فيكم تتواصلوا معنا كمان anonymously إذا ما بتحبوا تفصحوا عن هويتكم. so منجرب بكل الطرق إنه نخليكم تشاركوا معنا وتستفيدوا من هالسيشنز. كمان على سيرة منقدم support groups، so توقعوا كمان throughout this year يكون عنا support groups وين كمان بنحكي بمواضيع مع الأكسبرت على مواضيع مختلفة، وبنقدر كمان نتشارك قصصنا تنساعد بعض. وآخر شيء كل يوم عشية على سيرة من عدا الاثنين والجمعة، so 3 4 خميس عنا أخصائية بيكونوا موجودين على البلاتفورم for free تتعاملوا معهم 20 minutes private talk. so فيكم تحكوا مع psychologist، مع sexual health educator، مع learning and development psychomotor therapist، مع life coaches. please ترقبوا يعني على السوشيال ميديا وعلى الاب الاناونسمنتس يلي بنعملهم. هيدا كل شيء من عندي مايا. we're all ears. we're looking forward to the session tonight. عارفين عن حالك للناس الجداد وخلينا نبلش موضوعنا.
Thank you Sandra. أهلا وسهلا فيكم كلكم. بس قبل ما أبلش ساندرا إذا بتسمحي لي بدي أبلش السنة أول شيء Happy New Year with gratitude لإلك أنت ولسيرة، لأنه كل شيء هلأ أنت خبرتينا عنه اللي نحن أكيد اللي بنعرفك بنعرف. عم تعملي لنا you're opening paths for us and you're opening a platform for us تاكلنا نقدر نواجه هالسنة ونتحضر لهالسنة و along the way نعرف إنه عنا هذا المحل نقدر نجي لعنده. you keep saying free of charge اللي هي صارت شيء كتير قليل نشوفها بهالدنيا. بقى أنا من أحكي عني وعن كل العالم اليوم عم تسمعنا with gratitude. رح بلش السنة أكيد with so much appreciation لإلك أنت لكل شيء عم تجمعينا وأنا apart from being a specialist هون أنا كمان شخص بحضر السيشنز تبعوا الكل سيرة وبعرف قد ايه they give me so much insight وبيساعدوني knowing إنه مش وحدة بهالدنيا ومش وحدة بهالدنيا اللي عم بعاني من هالأشياء اللي بلاقي غيري. collective struggle is always easier to handle. So thank you so much for سيرة. Start the 2023 by saying عن جد without gratitude for you it wouldn't be a good year. يعني we have to start it on that path. But thank you on behalf of me.
It's a team
all
effort.
the
You're part of the team. Thank you كمان. We couldn't have founded سيرة من دونك. So
thank you so much. Genuinely and هيك sincere gratitude from my part أكيد. For those of you who are attending for the first time, اسمي مايا حوا. I am a life and executive coach, ICF certified. I'm a psychologist specialized in CBT from the University of Houston. I am certified by Cornell University in the psychology of leadership, and I am an NLP practitioner. And above all, I'm a mother of 3. And here today, I'm a specialist here to help you to understand شو يعني new year, new me. شو هالتايتل الحلوة لما بعتت لي اياها ساندرا ريتا و I was like واو أكيد. بس قد ايه اليوم هيدي التايتل رح كسرها بطريقة انتو I hope انه تقدروا تاخدوا منها exactly شو بدي أعطيكم منها اللي هي it is a new year بس in hopes it's not a new you. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that as we go along. Briefly شو رح نعمل اليوم؟ رح نحكي عن شو هي resolution، من وين اجيت شوي انه نعمل شوي مثل ايام المدرسة to understand the history of New Year's Eve resolutions and where it started. When we set resolutions, what happens? You know, what is it? What is the numbers out there? شو بيصير بالعالم؟ كلنا بتخيل whether we verbalize it or not, vocalize it or not. بتخيل كلنا منوعة أول السنة ومنفكر إنه it's a new start. It's something new. As we all know, something new means we can write whatever we want, an empty page, a new chapter, a new journey, a new whatever it is we want to do. So understanding what happens when we do set resolutions تنقدر شوي نحن نتصالح مع حالنا إذا عم يعني we're fighting with the idea of the New Year's Eve resolution. We're going to talk about why resolutions fail. Why do we tend to set these resolutions and why do we tend to fail and why have we failed in the past? Challenging obstacles. What is it that gets in the way of our resolutions along the way? بعدين رح نحكي شو ال benefits of having the New Year's Eve resolutions. رح ننقل على البوزيتيف ونفهم إنه ليه لازم نحط هالresolutions, whether it be on New Year's, whether it be every day, whether it be every Monday. Because as we all know, apart from New Year's Eve resolutions, sometimes we say we want to form a new habit and رح بلش نهار التنين. So what is it that the benefits of having these new resolutions or acquiring new habits and changes in our lives or behavioral changes? And what is the best effective way, the 8 steps to the effective way of forming a resolution and following through with it. And then I'm going to help you, Heike, just briefly with a small questionnaire, find a way to walk away from here, having a clear new behavioral change or habit that you would like to acquire, or if you want a New Year's Eve resolution. لو صرنا on the 16th of January, we're still going to reset today. So welcome again. As Sandra said, please send in all your questions, all your inquiries. Sandra بتقطشني halfway through if she needs, no big deal. We're used to it. And she'll ask the question, and I hope to address all your questions. Well, at the end, I'll stay behind if anybody else at the round table would like to come in or the room, I'm sorry, would like to come in and discuss whatever it is you have questions about or comments, or even if you want to share something to us learn also what's worked for you, because we're all here in it together and we're all learning from each other. And I like this. If you asked me for my New Year's resolution, it would be to find out who I am. أنا دايما ببلش اللي مش حاضر قبل workshop معي بيعرف إنه أنا دايما ببلش بهيك something of a quote that I borrow from someone else. And honestly, I kind of related to this one because every New Year's Eve resolution I've always set on my personal, it always meant something new about me. Find out who I am. You know, what is it I want to change about myself, whether it be with my behavior, whether it be with the things I do, the way I think, the way I process thoughts, anything it is that I want to change. At the end of the day, it is a definition of who I am. And any behavioral change we have in life, أنا وقت بيجوا العالم لعندي وما بقول لكم قد إيه من New Year's لليوم قد إيه في ناس بدها أدق لي إنه بدها تبلش sessions. The new start is always about where I want to go. But in order to know where I want to go, I need to know who I am and where I start today. What am I today? And this is why I told you at the beginning, it's not about new year, new me. It is a new year, but it's about evolved me and changed me and growth. And this is what we're going to focus on today. So yes, it's knowing who I am helps me understand why I want to do what I want to do and why I set this New Year's Eve resolution. A little bit of history. New Year's Eve resolution date back to the Babylonian days, 4,000 years ago, what بلشوا to symbolically basically look back at the year and then look ahead for the year. So it comes out from a very positive place. And then we reflect back on our past and we set what's coming up in the future. So New Year's Eve resolutions are rooted from a place that is somehow a belief in oneself. You know, what have I accomplished and what would I like to accomplish? Contrary to what we believe, إنه أنا بدي غير هيدا الشيء, I want to completely change this about myself. It's actually the intention of a New Year's Eve resolution is rooted from what have I accomplished? What have I built? And this is where a lot of us go wrong. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes, that when we set New Year's Eve resolutions, it comes from a negative place. I don't like the way I'm doing this, or I don't like that I have done this, or I don't like that I have not accomplished this. Therefore, I'm going to set this and I'm going to reach it. And we're going to talk about why we end up, if we root from a negative place, why we end up reaching a place where we fail or we don't end up following through our New Year's Eve resolution or creating a new habit. Self-efficacy is a human need. We all need to believe in ourselves. We all need to believe that we can achieve what we want to achieve. Is it confidence? No, it's self-efficacy. It's that hope in ourselves, believing in our abilities, believing in who we are. This is also where the New Year's Eve resolution came from, the idea of the New Year's Eve resolution. People thinking that they believe in themselves. They built they formulate the resolution based on what they believe in themselves, what they can accomplish. So most of the time when we set a New Year's Eve resolution, it's a belief in ourselves that I can do it. Yalla, I have a new start. I have a blank page. I have a new chapter I want to write. And what do I want to write on it? And I can achieve anything I want to write on it. And usually when we set the New Year's Eve resolution, we're usually in a positive mindset. And yalla, it's a new place, a new start. And a new start means I can create anything I want. Therefore, I'm going to start my new path. When we set New Year's Eve resolution, now these numbers were a bit astonishing for me. 10% of people who actually set New Year's Eve resolution achieve them. 50% can't even remember why they chose the resolution, or to some, they don't even remember their New Year's Eve resolution. And 81% of people fail by February. So the people who don't, out of 90% of the people who don't end up fulfilling their resolution fail by February. And keep in mind that February, we're talking about 30 days into the year. And we're going to talk about what that means and why they fail 30 days into the year. So just imagine only 10 of us here today. That's if 10 of us will, but 10% of us, I should say, will actually reach our New Year's Eve resolution that we set in, or whatever it is we wanted to achieve or change or evolve in our lives. If you think about it, when we've sat with other people and we ask them, or when this discussion comes up of what is your New Year's Eve resolution? Typically we'll hear get fit, help others, save money, manage debt, find new jobs, exercise more, read more books, Maybe eat better, maybe be a better mom, maybe be, focus more on my career. Maybe it is change my habit, change my thoughts, find a new, grow my social skills, whatever it is. Whenever we think about New Year's resolutions, they're broad. Get fit. What does it mean? Shiana help others. Shiana save money. إذا أنا اليوم بدي أقول أنا this year I'm going to work on ways to save money. Okay, بلشت السنة. صرنا 15th of January. How am I going to save money? So by beginning of February, I haven't saved money. Guess what? I'm going to fail. Does that make sense? So whenever I say exercise more, find a new job, and then I sit with this thought and I don't think it through. It's not specific. It's very broad. And most New Year's Eve resolutions are very broad. Why do we fail? What is it that we fail? And I don't mean to start with the failures and not the positives, but I am going to talk about the failures exactly to start out with. Why do people fail to reach their New Year's Eve resolution? First of all, and most importantly, they don't define the resolution well. As I said earlier, save money, get fit, eat healthier. Shuyani, what does it mean? It's not a well-defined resolution. It's not a well-defined goal that I want to reach. It's not a habit. It's a goal. It's an achievement. I'm looking at the end result as opposed to the path of how I'm going to get to this end result. And the more I focus on that end result, the more I'm going to face that path, preparing myself for failure. Why? Because the moment I set my New Year's resolution, I'm already setting myself up for an end result. But then stepping out of that comfort zone or creating something to create the something to actually start the path is where we fail to do. And this is why most people will just walk away from their New Year's resolution or forget about it for that matter. Doing it alone, collectively, we always need someone to hold us accountable. And as I mentioned earlier, my phone has been ringing off the wall for the past 16 days. People wanting to set sessions up to start working on new changes in their lives. Why? Because I hold them accountable. Because when they come to me and they tell me this is what they want to do, me or anybody else, it could be a friend, it could be your partner, it could be anybody, a professional, anybody that you have. Doing it alone means facing the struggles of it alone, means focusing on the end result and forgetting to actually brainstorm through it with someone else. And then knowing that someone else knows that I'm working on this means it's going to create more motivation within myself to keep working on my goal or this behavioral change. Focus on the long term instead of the short-term plan. I recently read something, I was reading an article, and I recently read that the worst things we can do to ourselves is set long-term goals that are very far. When we forget to set the short-term goals or the break it down into shorter goals, then we end up focusing on the long-term goal, and it ends up being so far away. And the further it is away, the further it is for us to reach, as opposed to if we create the long-term goal and then we sit down and we actually break it down into small pieces, and then we find, if you want, milestones or specific things that or achievements that we want to reach along the way before we reach that long-term goals, and we'll reward ourselves along the way. It keeps us motivated to reach that long-term goal eventually. Focus on change instead of involvement. And I want to focus on this. You know what? I'm going to come back to this. Let me go back up and then I'll come back to this last one because it's the last one I want to talk about. Unclear plan. Like I said, defining the resolution as a long-term end result and not focusing on the plan. How do I get there? What am I going to gradually do? How am I going to break down my resolution into pieces and bits so I don't lose hope and I don't lose motivation and I keep believing in myself and creating that self-efficacy maintaining that self-efficacy in order to reach that long-term result or the resolution that I want to reach. And lacking agility. Being agile with our resolution is very important. And I say, I want to reach this by the end of the year. And then I create my path, let's say. And then somehow I get to the first part, the first piece of my path. And then I feel like, okay, I didn't reach it the way I wanted to reach. What am I going to do? I'm going to say I failed and give up on it, as opposed to being agile, meaning having the flexibility to change the path or change the way to get to that long-term goal. As opposed, نحن بنحط هذا long-term goal, which is what our New Year's Eve resolution is. Okay, so we decide by the end of this year, I want to have achieved X. Okay, great. So in order to get to X, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. I get to the end of 1 and I realized I didn't reach what I wanted to by the end of 1. So what do? I go into that mindset of self-sabotage and I start to feel like I'm a failure and I start to feel like I can't do this. And that long-term goal, that step 3 feels so far away then, because I feel like I didn't achieve the first step. Why should I go to the second step and the third step? But when I look at it from an agile perspective and I say, okay, you know what? I reached 1, not as well as I would have liked to. So now in order to reach 2, maybe I need to make an extra turn, or maybe I need to have a 1.5 before I go to 2, or 1.2, or whatever it is before I get to that 2. And this is why we end up just saying, okay, you know what? Lacking agility means me getting to a point of I failed the first step, so I'm not going to move forward anymore. And I give up on my behavioral change or whatever it is, habit I want to acquire. And then I'm going to go back to focus on change instead of evolvement. And this is what I mean by new year, new me. Whenever I face my challenges, or whenever I face my struggles along the way, or whatever change I want to create in my behavior in life, if I don't root it from a positive place, meaning where have I been? And like I said, when the Babylonians started the new year, when they started the idea of the New Year's Eve resolution, it was a reflection of what I have done and where I want to go. So they take what they have achieved and then they build on it. But most New Year's Eve resolutions is, I haven't done this, therefore I want to do this. But then, you know what? Why don't we start it from a positive place by evolving into something different? I'm not creating a new me. I don't want to create a new me. I'm happy with who I am. But you know what? I'd like to grow in this place, or evolve in this place, or gain more in this place, as opposed to just forget who I am and start a new me in whatever it is I want to start, whatever aspect of my life I want to start. So it's very important to not focus on changing as opposed to building and growing and evolving and adding to who my existing me is. And the moment I approach my New Year's Eve resolution and with that mindset is when I'm actually approaching it from a positive mindset, as opposed to a self-sabotaging mindset of, you haven't done this, you've been missing out on this all year long, or your entire life, you haven't done this. You know what? You're going to write a new book. We're not writing new books. We're writing a new sheet. We're writing a new chapter. But writing a new book means erasing who I am, or erasing what I have, means I'm going at it from a place of, I'm a failure. So it's very important to say, it's not about new me. It's about evolved me. It's a new year. It's an evolved me. It's a growth. It's creating new insights, growing what is already existing. Challenges and obstacles along the way. A lot of people, when they set their New Year's Eve resolution, like I said, they think of it as a marathon. As a sprint, I'm sorry, not a marathon. So I want to end at step 3, but I'm going to jump from step 1 to step 3, and I want to see results right away. Well, guess what? That's impossible. If I'm evolving and growing and adding things into my life, I don't expect it to happen overnight. You can't break a habit and form it, for that matter. It takes time for things to stick. And this is why we end up going back into that comfort zone. So what happens when we create this New Year's Eve resolution? We decide we want to do something new. So what are we essentially doing? We're stepping out of our comfort zone. We're doing something that is not necessarily something we've done or something we're used to doing. So we're creating something new, something different. We're evolving, we're growing into something else. So as soon as I start and I step out of my comfort zone, what's that first step out of it? It's fear. So the moment any obstacle comes along the way, instead of being agile and working around it, I cave back into my comfort zone, which is normal. That's why it's called the comfort zone, right? So I cave back into my comfort zone and I sit in this place and I say, okay, I'm a failure. I can't do this. I didn't do it. It was a bad year. Some of us will blame it on external things, and some of us will internalize it and blame it on internal things. Or we'll use limiting beliefs as, you know what, I couldn't do this because of this, or I couldn't do that because of that. Creating a total reset, a new me. Don't try to do that, guys. Be proud of who you are. Start from a positive place, like I said. We don't tend to believe in ourselves or our abilities. You know, that self-efficacy goes down the drain as soon as we start. As soon as we hit an obstacle or a difficulty or any kind of interference in the behavioral change or whatever it is we want to change or grow in our lives or evolve in our lives, we end up losing that self-efficacy. We stop believing in ourselves. We stop having confidence in our abilities. Knowing the what, but not the why. A lot of us will say, I want to change this, or I want to create this, or I want to do this. Okay, but why? Why is this important? You know, knowing the why in everything in our lives creates the motivation to keep going. When I don't anchor the why and define it clearly, I will fall into the trap of self-sabotage as soon as difficulties arise or as soon as something challenging comes about. So knowing the why is extremely important. And that's what we're going to talk about with the 8 strategies. And unrealistic expectations. How many of us, if you really think back of the years past, and you think about what you have set for yourself for New Year's Eve as your New Year's Eve resolution, has been somewhat unrealistic, has been a long shot, especially when we're younger. The older we get, the more realistic we become. But how many of us set unrealistic expectations for ourselves? I want to do this and that and that and that. And a lot of us will tend to say, this year I'm going to do this and that and that and that. You know, it's usually a series of things. And then lacking social support. The most important aspect, and, you know, I just read something on, I think it was Forbes or Harvard just today, that the most important aspect to happiness is a community, social support. So having someone to support us whenever we do reach a difficulty or struggle along the way of reaching that new behavioral, you know, change or evolvement that we want to do, helping us bounce back and being more agile and pulling us kind of in a way where, come on, you know what, you said you're going to do this. I'm holding you accountable. I need you to keep pushing forward. And sometimes they need to actually hold our hand and just take a step or two with us. So lacking that social support is a big, indicator of why a lot of us tend to just give up on our New Year's Eve resolutions. The benefits. Let's go positive now. Khalas negative. The benefits of setting resolutions. It's the catalyst for positive change. You know, it gives us this new idea, this new, في أحلى منا حدا يعطينا a blank sheet of paper and tells us, okay, you know what? You're writing a new blank sheet. You know what? Build on what you've already written. You've already grown. You've already evolved in so many different ways. Now take the growth that you've had and build on it and create more positive change. You know, create more evolvement. What is it you want to do? So it is a catalyst for positive change. It motivates us in ways. You know, it's a big motivator for us. It's a reminder for us that we believe in ourselves, that we can do this and we will do this. It provides general direction in our lives. We all need goals, guys. Without goals, we have no purpose, no matter what kind of goals, whether it be personal, professional, or in any way that we set goals. It's what wakes us up in the morning. It's that why that wakes us up and gets us out of bed. It promotes self-esteem and self-empowerment, knowing that I have the power to evolve in this aspect of my life. And I am working on it with bits and pieces. And along the way, I have milestones that I want to reach. And these milestones are going to be, there's going to be a reward for me at the end of each milestone. Then I'm going to work on myself. And it's going to give me this empowerment to keep working and facing the challenges whenever I do face the challenge. Methods of erasing errors from the past. It kind of helps us fade through the failures or whatever it is we've done that we're not very happy with from the past. It reflects on the past and what is positive. Like I said, it's building from the positive, not from the negative. And most importantly, it's living by design rather than by default. You know, I've had a lot of clients sit in front of me and tell me, Maya, I feel like I'm living by default. You know, it's just living. I'm just existing. You know what? How about we start living by design, designing our own life, understanding who we are, what we want to be, where we want to go, and most importantly, why we want to go where we want to go. I think somebody wrote in the chat. Let me just check. Those reasonable goals to have at a certain point of time. That's a very good question. What is a reasonable goal, number of goals to have at a certain part of the time? It depends on the magnitude of the goal, and it depends on how much effort that goal has. Typically speaking, we like people to work on specific goals in a specific part of their lives. But when you're working on different goals, for example, let me break it down to make more sense. If I'm working on my career, if I have numerous goals that I'm working on in my career, it might become exhausting. If I'm working on my personal life, if I'm having a lot of things working on my personal life at the same time, so numerous goals, it might get exhausting. But then if the goals are intertwined and interconnected somehow, and they cross over each other somehow, then yes, I can work on them. For example, with my health, I can be working on my diet and my exercise and my, taking care of my mental health. For my career, I can be working on a specific part of my career and growing separate goals within that part. But working on my career and my personal life and my family and my health and all that at one time might get exhausting depending on how large the goals are. So it all depends on the size of the goal and what the expectation is of me when it comes to my specific goal that I'm setting. I hope I answered the question. So yeah, living.
Sorry.
No.
And we have other questions. في حدا عم بيسأل أي challenges you experienced while building a habit أنت كمايا do you do this exercise where you point out the habits that you want to stop or forsake and the habits that you want to keep أول السنة ولا you just focus on what you want to gain?
Whenever we're reflecting on new habits, I'll come back to the first question in a second, but I have to think about that one. Whenever we're focusing on a habit that we want to evolve in or create in life, it's always good, like I said, to come from a positive place, as opposed to, I'm a failure and I want to do this. So, you know what? I've tried this. It hasn't necessarily worked for me. It took this to do this. So you know what? I'm going to create it in a different way. This is what I mean by agility. The more agile I am when I'm creating my New Year's resolution or whatever habit I want to change, we're not going to call it New Year's resolution, habitual behavioral changes that we want to make. It's very important to motivate ourselves coming from a positive place. But when I come from a self-sabotaging place, I'm already entering that new goal or that new habit that I want to create or behavioral change coming from a negative standpoint. So already I'm losing motivation before I even start. So it's always important to reflect back and think of what I have done right. And at one point, believe it or not, and I've done this with sessions on several, with several clients, where when we reflect back, whenever they want to change, whenever they want to reach a new goal, when we reflect back to the past, and I'm talking about, we can, dig back quite far enough, we find ways that we have actually done things that have been good for us towards this goal. And then when we take that creates that self-motivation and that positive motivation in order to go on and feel like, you know what, I can do this. And this is what I mean by empowerment. It gives me that empowerment of, you know what, I have done this in a different way. So why don't I look at it in a different perspective? And it can be something, for example, if I want to do something with my career, I can look at my personal life and say what I've accomplished in my personal life. And having accomplished certain things in my personal life and taking the strength that it took to accomplish those things in my personal life, I can use that strength to believe in myself that I can accomplish things in my career life. And this is what I mean by, going from a positive mindset, as opposed to, you know what, I've never worked on my career. I haven't accomplished anything in my career. I'm a failure. Well, you know what? Every part of my life is intertwined. And when I reach into a positive place and dig from it, and if you want, fuel my new goal from that particular accomplishment or whatever accomplishment I have accomplished in the past, it helps me attack or face my goal in a more positive mindset. And then it empowers me to keep motivated, to keep motivation and working towards my goal that I want to reach. as far as my struggles and my challenges, I would say self-sabotage. I'm not going to lie to you guys. When I start to face new challenges and, whenever I set something up for myself, I will have certain mind, thoughts or, that little Maya that talks inside that starts telling her, you can't do this. You're not good enough. You're unable to do this. And, thank God I'm lucky enough to have so many people. So I surround myself. And this is what I mean by community. I have a lot of people around me who will tell me, you know what? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Khalas. Brush it off, go, and we'll talk about it later. And then when I start to do things and work forward, I go back and I address it and I think of it, what it was, self-sabotage. So I think self-sabotage, that little voice that speaks to me inside my head whenever I'm afraid to do something new. Or whenever I've got something I'm working on. And Sandra's great at doing this, giving me those speeches of, yes, you can, and you will, and you have it. Even though sometimes it's something I've never tried before, but she'll push me, make me believe that I have done it before. And so, self-sabotage, I think, has been my biggest challenge. And as far as whenever I'm facing a new struggle or a new goal, a new evolvement in my life, or a new chapter. Did I answer the questions? Perfect. We'll move on. So what are the steps? So what can you do today? Okay, so you started the new year. You set your New Year's Eve resolution. You decided you want to do something new or different, or create a new habit, or change something, find a new way to do a specific habit or live with a specific something that you've been living with. So how do you do it? Like I said, the most important thing is ask yourself, why do I want to do this? What will change in me when I do this? What will evolve? What will I feel whenever I reach this goal? Whenever I change this habit, irrespective of what it is, why do I want to do it? This is, if you want, the craving in us. This is what's going to remind us of what it is and what is going to keep moving us forward, knowing the why. This is something that I can tell you that I work every single day with my clients, knowing why you want to do what you want to do, or knowing why you want to change what you want to change, or evolve, or build, or whatever it is you want to do. The why is very important. The moment you know your why, that is that sugar in your water, that is the fuel in your tank. That's what's going to keep coming back and waking you up the moment you start to feel like I can't. Whenever that self-sabotage starts to come, the why is very important. And we've seen this on with several things. And I'll give you a very simple example. How many of us have bad habits in our lives? And we say we want to change it, whether it be something in our eating, or maybe smoking, or maybe not exercising, or something, very important, but then we can't do it. And then something external, for example, a doctor, or an illness, or something external, somebody else that, is affected from a habit that's similar to ours, wakes us up, and we see that, that click in us, say, okay, you know what, I'm done with this. I've got to change it. So example, smoking. Somebody goes to a doctor and they say, how many smokers say, I want to stop smoking? How many people who have unhealthy eating habits say, I want to stop eating, I have to eat better. And then they go to the doctor, they get their blood test, and their cholesterol is high. And then all of a sudden, you see sudden changes in their eating and sudden changes in their habits. Why? Because their why became fear. The fear of not being able to be healthy. And they saw it became tangible. It became visible. And this is why we say, don't just think it, ink it. So write down the why. Why do you want to do what you want to do? Why do you want to change this habit? Why do you want to, evolve in this habit? Why do you want to introduce this habit? Why do you want to create a new habit? What is it about the reason? What is the end result is very important, but why do you want to get there? What are you going to face when you get there? And this is, when I do workshops with teenagers, I always tell them, along whatever it is you're trying to reach it, but then enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. Because if you don't know the why and you don't enjoy the journey along the way, then you get to that end result and you're like, why did I even do this? So the why is very important. What is your why? Why is it important for you to reach this New Year's Eve resolution? Why is it important for you to create this new habit? Why is it important? And if you don't do it, why is it important that you do it? And then micro, not macro. Break down any habit we want to do. You know, there are laws to changing behaviors and there's steps to them. And in order to reach them, we have to break them down. So whatever habit, whatever change, whatever, I keep saying the word change, I know, but change meaning creating new habits or adding to existing habits or evolving in new things in our lives. Whenever we want to do that, when we think macro and then we start to fail by beginning of February, let's say, we think, okay, you know what, I'm never going to reach this. Break it down. You know, by the beginning of 2024, I want to have reached this goal, or I want to have created this habit, or I want to have evolved in this way in my life. Okay, great. So by the end of January, where should I be? By the end of February, where should I be? And I, you know, as I was saying earlier, I don't know if I continued the thought because I tend to just speak when I'm in these workshops. I read an article the other day that whenever we want to create a new habit in our lives, try not to think too long term. Try to focus on the short term. Because when you think about the long term, it's so far away. And then what do we end up doing? We end up sitting in our comfort zone, either because of fear or because of not knowing how to move forward, or because of not having the tools to move forward. So fear, why? Fear creates procrastination. Procrastination is fear. There's a direct correlation between why people procrastinate, and that's because they're afraid of facing whatever it is they're going to face. So when you think micro, when you say, okay, you know what, it's far, but you know what, in 2 weeks, I'm going to reach this. In a month, I'm going to reach this. And then write it down. Write down a plan. You know, what is the first habit you need to change? And how will the first habit build towards the second habit, and then towards the third habit, and then eventually the last habit? So don't go cold turkey on anything. Do things gradually and break them down. And after each milestone you reach, have a reward system, guys. Have something that you will feel proud of, and it will anchor that feeling of, yes, you know what, I did it. Now I move to the next step. So think micro and not macro. Stop focusing on the big picture and focus on the smaller picture. The big picture is there. You know, that helicopter is hovering on top. You know, you're going there at the end. But then what do you need to do in order to get there? You know, what are the steps you need to take? Break it down as much as possible. You know, Monday, I'm going to do this. Tuesday, it could be something in a month you want to reach. So great. What are you going to do tomorrow? What are you going to do next week on Monday? That's what I mean by micro. And then write down. The more we write, and I always tell my clients, grab a pen and paper, write down. Writing is becoming a thing of the past, but I guarantee you, when we hold this pen and we write things down, it tends to stick. We see it. When we see it, we know it's there. Narrow your choices. Don't have too many things you're working on at the same time. Try to focus. You know, I know you asked me earlier, how many goals can we work on at the same time? Depending on the magnitude of the goal, of course, but try not to decide, you know, to change the whole Maya, or to evolve the whole Maya, or to create habits in everything in Maya's life, because Maya's going to get exhausted by the end of January if she's evolving in everything in her life. If I'm working on my health and my family and my career and my physical self and my everything, you know, my social life and my physical as an environment, my home, then guess what? End of January, I'm going to be exhausted, and I'm going to get to the end of the year knowing that I did nothing different. And guess what's going to happen? More self-sabotage and more negative thoughts. So try to narrow your choices down to as little as possible things that you're working on at one time. You can set 4 New Year's Eve resolution, but then again, break them down into time zones, you know, break them down into time frames. I'm sorry. Set one that you'll work on now, set one that you work on maybe in spring, set one that you'll probably work on in the summer. And along the way, set small goals that won't take too much effort to work towards, because you're focusing on one big goal. But alongside that, you can still be working on the rest of them gradually, but not with so much effort, because changing who I am is not what I want to do. I'm proud of who I am. I just want to evolve into something bigger, something greater, something more proud of myself of. Create a source of accountability. Call a friend, call your siblings, tell your partner, tell your kids. Wow, that's amazing. When we tell our kids we want to do something, oh, do we do it? Go to a professional. Coaches help a lot with that. Find someone to hold you accountable. And when I say find someone to hold you accountable, share with them that by the end of this month, I want to have done this, or that at the end of that month, I want to do that. And ask them to hold you accountable. Tell them it's not going to be annoying to me if you hold me accountable for this. I am asking you to take on the responsibility to hold me accountable for this. Create SMART resolutions. That means specific. And, I don't know if any of you know the SMART tools that we use in the corporate world, but specific, measurable, attainable, and time bound. Make sure it's a specific goal. Make sure it's measurable. Make sure, like I said, it has things that you will actually see. You will measure the change. You will see the change. Have milestones with rewards along the way. Attainable. Make sure it's not something exaggerated or something, not attainable. And then give it a time bound. By 2024, great. But min halla 2024, how do I break it down? And what are those stepping stones that'll get me to that last step I want to get to? And then forgive your past failures. Don't allow yourself, when things get hard and when you hit adversity, when you're working along your goal, don't reflect back and say, oh, I've always failed in this. Don't let that self-sabotage come back. Don't let that little voice in your head crush you and stop you from moving forward. Design your environment. And when I say design your environment, it means create the right aspect, create the right, excuse me, let it be visible, see it, know the why. So, the environment, know what's going on, know who's there, create the sources, the resource, the accountability, people who are your support group if you want, and work forward and just stick to it. And write down, guys, write down. I can say this till the end of the day, but I'm telling you, the more you write down, the better it is you'll reach your goals or your habitual change or behavioral change. 2190 rule. And I love this rule because a lot of people will tell me that, you know what, I give up. So it takes 21 days to create a habit and 90 days to make it a part of your life. So if you do something consistently for 21 days, meaning if you work on something, and it could be small, it could be big, consistently for 21 days, it becomes somewhat of a habit, but it takes 90 days for it to become something as habitual as brushing your teeth, or if you have coffee in the morning, or whatever habit you have that you cannot live without, it takes 90 days, which is why probably 81% of the people by February end up falling away from their New Year's resolution or failing their New Year's resolution. Because, okay, great. So it's become a habit, but then they, somehow along the way, they lost track. They didn't continue for 90 days. So anything you want to create in your life, or anything you want to evolve in your life, or any habit or behavioral, change you want to create, you have to do it for 90 days. 3 months and you're set, guys. That's it. It becomes a habit for the most part. This is why, if you notice at the beginning, if you recall, I started with gratitude. This is something we tell people all the time. Wake up every day for 90 days and start with that inner voice. Let it say something that you're grateful for. And in 90 days, your mindset goes from negative to positive. So this is just a very simple exercise or tool that we give our clients that tells them, you know what, you seem to be reflecting in a very negative mind. A lot of your thoughts seem to be negative. So let's kind of switch them slowly. And for the next 90 days, I want you to wake up every morning. And some clients, I'll tell them, I want you to text me something every morning, or write down something every morning for 90 days that will give you, that you appreciate, that you feel gratitude for. And 90 days later, a lot of these clients will start to think, you know what, I tend to think more positive. So 2190, 21 days, don't stop. It creates a habit. 90 days, it's a part of your lifestyle. A habit doesn't stick. Behavioral change takes 90 days to stick and becomes a part of your lifestyle. Work out for 90 days, you can't live without a workout. Eat something or remove something from your diet for 90 days, you won't be able to eat it unless you're choosing to for, it doesn't become a habit. It's no longer an old habit that's come, forward. You've removed that habit and it's become a choice. Stop smoking for 90 days. Stop yelling for 90 days. Sleep early for 90 days. Whatever it is that your New Year's Eve resolution is. Find a new job, work on it for 90 days. Sit down for 90 days and make it active. Decide what kind of job you want to, decide the why. Decide what it is exactly you want to do. What is the path you want to get to? You want to use to get there, and work on it for 90 days. It might happen earlier, but for it to become a lifestyle change, you have to do it for 90 days, because you will face challenges and struggles and obstacles and whatever it is, difficulties along the way. But if you do it for 90 days, it becomes a lifestyle. And then I'm going to give you, because I know I'm almost out of time. I am out of time. Sorry, Sandra. Identity drives behavior, guys. Okay. Knowing who you are, meaning where are you coming from? What are you building onto? It's not about what I don't want to be me anymore. Guys, your New Year's Eve resolution is an added layer to who you are. So who are you now? What do you want to evolve or improve in you? Why is it important? How will you do it? And most importantly, what rewards or cues will you look for along the way? How can you break it down? And what will the result be at the end? So I'm going to give you guys exactly, if you guys want to take a picture of this, or if you want to screenshot it, so you can have this. I invite you to sit with yourself tonight and really, at the end of this session, don't wait for this. Do it right after the session today. Sit down and fill these blanks out. Truly ask yourself, who are you now? And please use a positive mindset when you do this. Go root it from a positive place. What would you like to see in yourself evolving or improving? Why? And this why, I want you to take your time. And what will you do? And how often? And how can you break it down into time blocks? And by when, in order to have achieved what? So, and by time, meaning break it down. This is where you build on this, guys, and you break it down into pieces and steps. Don't think about the long term, guys. Break it down. Think about what you are evolving into and why is it important, and how can you break it down into small pieces. Any habit, in order for us to have a behavioral change, it's a habit. In order for us to acquire a new habit or evolve in something in our lives, we have to be consistent, and we have to be able to break it down, because without reward, we will not continue. And if we're working on something that we want to reach in a year, even in a month, if it's a huge challenge and we want to reach it in a month, if by this weekend we don't have some kind of gratification or satisfaction, then we're not going to keep working on it towards the end of the month or towards the end of the year, for that matter. So no matter how big this habit is, or how big this goal that you have, or this New Year's Eve resolution is, or how small it is, break it down into small pieces. Sometimes it's something you want to reach within a week. Break it down into days or hours. If it's in a month, break it down into weeks. If it's in a year, break it down into months, weeks, whatever it is that suits you. Set every day. There's journals out there you can buy. You can download apps. There's so many numerous ways you can do this. But whatever it is know the why. And at the beginning of every page, or at the beginning of every morning, say the why to yourself. I am doing this because of this. This is important because of this. I have to evolve in this, or grow in this, or change this particular habit because of this. It's not a new me. It's an improved and evolved me. I did not want to leave you today thinking that there's anything wrong with you. Who you are today, you've worked very hard to get to. Take who you are and grow and evolve, guys. Stop the self-sabotage. أحلى شيء عنا نقعد مع أفكارنا ونكسر بحالنا. لأنه that comfort zone is very satisfying. Blaming ourselves for everything and focusing on our failures is a lot easier than pushing ourselves to achieve new things. So whatever it is you want to achieve, whatever it is your New Year's Eve resolution is, whatever evolvement you want to make in your life, whatever habits you want to change, do them coming from be proud of who you are, be proud of what you've accomplished. If you haven't accomplished something specific in a specific aspect of your life, tap into other aspects of your life. Like I said, if I want to achieve a new something in my career, then tap into my personal life and feel the empowerment from there. If in my personal life. And if I want to achieve something in my personal life, tap into my career. If I want to achieve something in my social life, tap into. So whatever it is I want to evolve in or grow in my life or change or create new habits in, tap into your strengths and build on that coming from a strength, not from a failure. Thank you.
Thank you Maya. Thank you for the في عنا حدا من الأودينس she or he, we don't know, shared something to hold him or herself accountable to the group. So I am now a person seeking new experiences and focusing on developing step by step. I would like to see myself evolving into a successful clinical psychologist because I would like to help people grow. I would reach this by getting trained and working on myself. We'll reach this in 3 years.
It's amazing.
What do you think about this goal?
I love it. I love it. Break it down, set your milestones. I'd love to welcome you into the what do we call it? The network. And yeah, just break it down. Clinical psychologist, that's amazing. Break it down. Set your specific goals that you want to reach along the way in order to maintain that motivation and maintain that momentum of working towards your 3-year plan. But most importantly, be proud of every single step along the way so you don't end up falling away from or falling short of believing in yourself along the way.
مايا قبل ما نختم وننقل على الروم هيك people can share يعني we're gonna ask يلي عباله to share his goal بركن نقدر نحكي فيهم شوي أكتر يمكن نحكي عن تجارب سابقة ليش ما زبطوا نقدر ننصح أكتر هيك what would be your key takeaways one big sabotage for not reaching goals and one big skill that we should have or guideline that we should have in order to reach goals شو بتقولي لنا؟
Stop saying I'm not good enough or I can't. Say I can and find the right support system. People, community, support system, whoever it is around you needs to believe in you when you stop believing in yourself. And we all wake up sometimes not believing in ourselves. We all have days where we wake up and we feel like, I can't do it. You need someone to take that scissor and cut off the T and make it an I can when you cannot. Because like I said earlier, Sandra, it's very easy to do the I can't and maintain sitting in our comfort zone because our comfort zone is very comfortable. As uncomfortable as it is comfortable at the same time. So yeah, support system, self-sabotage is the hardest thing for most people, from personally to what I've seen in my office, and support system, the right people.
I agree. So we're going to invite people to continue with us in the room. I'm sharing my screen بس نرجع نذكر إذا في ناس جديد معنا. Okay, so in front of you on your mobile على الأب رح يبين عندكم على المنيو rooms. So you press on room وفي room جديدة اسمها New Year New Me رح ننقل عليها. In the room it's a safe space ما منسجل. فيكم تطلعوا على الكاميرا if you would like to on microphone. And you can ask your questions to Maya. You can even ask your questions anonymously or just listen in مثل ما أنتم بترتاحوا. So Maya, let's join the room and thank you so much for this wonderful session.
Thank you.